Number 10. The Nazca Lines. In the Nazca Desert of southern Peru, a civilization called the Nazca people spent centuries carving massive images into the earth. They did this between 500 BC and 500 AD, using only wooden stakes, ropes, and simple hand tools. The result was over 1,100 lines stretching across 500 square kilometers of dry, flat ground. Some lines ran straight for nearly 50 kilometers without a single curve. The shapes they carved were not random. There were spiders, hummingbirds, monkeys, and a massive figure some call the astronaut. From the ground, these images make no sense at all. You can barely tell what you are looking at, but from the air, they form perfect, recognizable animals and geometric shapes. For decades, people asked the same question: why would anyone carve images that can only be seen from above? Then something became clearer. Researchers found that the Nazca people were not trying to signal anyone in the sky. The lines are thought to have marked underground water sources and ritual walking paths. Groups of people would walk the lines during ceremonies, moving across the desert as part of religious processions. The lines pointed toward seasonal water sources that the Nazca relied on to survive in one of the driest places on Earth. What looks like alien communication from above was actually a map drawn by a people struggling to live in a brutal landscape. To this day, some paths and their exact ceremonial meaning remain only partially understood. Number 9. Stonehenge. In Wiltshire, England, a ring of massive standing stones has sat on a flat plain for roughly 4,500 years. Construction on Stonehenge began around 3000 BC and continued in phases for over 1,000 years. The outer ring was built from local sandstone blocks called sarsens, some weighing up to 25 tons. The inner blue stones, however, came from the Preseli Hills in Wales, more than 200 miles away. No metal tools, no wheels, no draft animals capable of pulling that kind of weight. For centuries, archaeologists puzzled over the transport problem. Moving a 25-ton block across 2 centuries of British terrain seemed almost impossible for a Stone Age culture. Then researchers began to find answers. Experiments using wooden sledges, ropes, and teams of people showed that moving the sarsens was achievable with organized labor. The blue stones may have been shifted partly using glacial movement during the last ice age before human hands finished the job. As for its purpose, alignments with the summer solstice sunrise and winter solstice sunset suggest it was a solar calendar and possibly a place of healing or ancestral worship. Human bones found at the site indicate it served as a burial ground for centuries before the stones were even erected. What makes this case remarkable is that Stonehenge was not built in one inspired moment. It was built and rebuilt across 1,400 years by people who felt deeply that this ground meant something. That continuous devotion across generations is itself the most unexplained part of all. Number 8. The Great Pyramid of Giza. In 2560 BC, workers on the edge of the Sahara Desert completed the largest stone structure ever built. The Great Pyramid of Giza stands 138 meters tall and was constructed using roughly 2.3 million stone blocks. The average block weighs about 2.5 tons. The heaviest blocks, used in the King's Chamber, weigh up to 80 tons each. For thousands of years, people had no idea how this was done, and some refused to believe it was done by human hands at all. But evidence gathered over decades has painted a clear picture. Workers were not slaves. Papyrus records found in 2013 describe teams of laborers moving limestone blocks on wooden sleds, lubricated with water, and pulled across specially built ramps. A workforce of around 20,000 skilled workers, organized into rotating crews, built the pyramid over about 20 years. They had a city nearby, complete with bakeries, breweries, and medical care. What still challenges experts is the precision. The 4 base sides differ in length by less than 5 centimeters. The pyramid is aligned almost perfectly to true north using stellar navigation. The corners are nearly perfect right angles. This level of accuracy required advanced geometry and surveying skills that archaeologists are still trying to fully reconstruct. The pyramid was built during the 4th dynasty of Egypt, during the reign of Pharaoh Khufu. It remained the tallest man-made structure on Earth for over 3,800 years. No other civilization matched that record until 1311 AD, when Lincoln Cathedral was completed in England. Number 7. Sacsayhuaman. High above the city of Cusco in Peru, at an altitude of 3,700 meters, sits one of the most baffling construction sites in the ancient Americas. Sacsayhuaman is a massive stone complex built by the Inca in the 1400s. Its walls are made from enormous limestone blocks, many weighing between 100 and 300 tons each. The blocks fit together so precisely that not even a piece of paper can slide between them. No mortar was used anywhere. These stones simply hold each other in place through weight, shape, and interlocking geometry. The nearest quarry for some of these blocks was 22 kilometers away. Early Spanish colonizers who saw the site refused to believe the Inca had built it at all. Some wrote that it must have been built by demons. Researchers today believe the Inca moved these stones using wooden rollers, earthen ramps, rope systems, and a massive organized labor force. The Inca system of mita, a form of communal labor tax, meant that thousands of workers could be mobilized and fed by the state for large construction projects. Experimental archaeology has confirmed that moving even the heaviest blocks is possible, with enough people, the right terrain, and careful engineering. The zigzag design of the outer walls also served a military purpose, forcing attackers to expose their sides to defenders on the walls above. What makes Sacsayhuaman extraordinary is not that it defies explanation. It is that it proves what a civilization can achieve when its entire economy is organized around collective effort. Number 6. Göbekli Tepe. In southeastern Turkey, on a rocky hilltop overlooking the Harran Plain, a group of hunter-gatherers built something that should not have existed. They built it around 9600 BC, making it over 11,000 years old. That makes Göbekli Tepe older than Stonehenge by 6,000 years, and older than the Egyptian pyramids by more than 7,000 years. At the time, humans were supposed to be wandering bands of nomads. Agriculture had not yet been invented. Cities did not exist, and yet, someone organized hundreds of people to quarry and erect T-shaped limestone pillars, some standing over 5 meters tall and weighing up to 50 tons. The pillars were covered in detailed carvings of lions, foxes, vultures, and abstract symbols. For decades, this discovery sat unexplained. There was no farming surplus to feed workers. There was no government to organize labor. There were no permanent settlements nearby to house builders. Then researchers began rethinking the sequence entirely. Göbekli Tepe may not have been built because civilization existed. It may be the reason civilization began. The leading theory now is that religious and ritual motivation drove large groups of hunter-gatherers to cooperate, build, and eventually settle nearby, leading to the first experiments in agriculture to feed the people who gathered here. The site is not a mystery of technology. It is a mystery of motivation, something powerful enough to move thousands of people to do the impossible without any of the social structures we assume were needed. Only about 10% of the site has been excavated. What lies beneath the rest remains unknown. Number 5. Derinkuyu Underground City. Beneath the volcanic plains of Cappadocia in Turkey, workers in 1963 were renovating a home when they broke through a wall and found a tunnel. The tunnel led to a room. The room led to more tunnels. What they had uncovered was one of the largest underground cities ever found, stretching at least 8 levels deep into the earth and capable of sheltering an estimated 20,000 people at one time. This was Derinkuyu, a subterranean city carved entirely out of soft, volcanic rock called ignimbrite. The city had ventilation shafts that reached the surface and circulated fresh air throughout all 8 levels. It had wells, storage rooms, wine presses, a church, and even a school. Its entrances could be sealed from the inside using massive round stone doors, each weighing hundreds of kilograms, that could not be opened from the outside, once closed. Archaeologists believe Derinkuyu was built and expanded over many centuries, likely beginning around the 8th century BC by the Phrygians and later expanded by early Christians fleeing Roman and then Arab persecution. The soft volcanic rock made carving possible with basic iron tools. The ventilation system, though remarkable, follows natural fracture patterns in the rock that the builders identified and exploited. What makes this case strong is not that the engineering was impossible. It is that this level of planning, this capacity for communal shelter on such a scale, was achieved by people who left almost no written record of themselves. Dozens of similar underground settlements exist throughout Cappadocia. Derinkuyu remains the deepest and most complete ever discovered. Number 4. Yonaguni Monument. Off the southern coast of Yonaguni Island in Japan, beneath about 25 meters of ocean, there is a structure that has divided the scientific world for decades. In 1986, a diver named Kihachiro Aratake was exploring the seabed when he found what appeared to be a massive stepped platform cut from stone. It had flat surfaces, sharp edges, straight walls, right-angle corners, and what looked like a road and star-shaped platforms. The largest section stood roughly 25 meters tall and stretched 50 meters wide. It looked like architecture. For years, researchers argued over whether it was man-made or natural. On one side stood Masaaki Kimura, a professor at the University of Ryukyus, who argued that tool marks, carvings, and non-random patterns proved human hands had shaped it. On the other side, geologists pointed to the way sandstone naturally fractures along parallel joints, creating flat surfaces and right angles without any human involvement. Then, something shifted the debate. Sea level analysis confirmed that the area where the monument sits was above water during the last ice age, between roughly 10,000 and 20,000 years ago. That puts any potential construction before recorded Japanese history. The current consensus leans toward natural formation, with the possibility that ancient people may have modified existing rock features for ceremonial use. No definitive tool marks have been confirmed. No artifacts have been found nearby on the seabed. The monument remains officially unclassified, and no government body has declared it either natural or man-made. Even decades later, it continues to be discussed in both geology and archaeology circles, without a final answer. Number 3. The Gantija Temples. On the island of Gozo in Malta, two prehistoric temples sit side by side behind a single outer wall. They are called the Gantija, which means Giant's Tower in Maltese. They were built between 3600 and 3000 BC, making them among the oldest freestanding stone structures on Earth. They are older than Stonehenge. They are older than the Egyptian pyramids. Some of their stones are 5 meters tall and weigh up to 50 tons. They were built by people who had only stone tools, no metal, and no wheeled vehicles. Local legend said that a female giant had carried the stones here on her shoulder and built the temples in a single day. The truth, uncovered through archaeology, is less mythological but no less impressive. Researchers found evidence of ramps, rollers, and animal fat used as lubricant to slide the massive stones across the landscape. The layout of the temples suggests a sophisticated understanding of sacred geometry. Animal bones and small clay figurines found inside indicate the temples were used for sacrifice and religious ceremony over many generations. What makes this case extraordinary is not the size of the stones, it is the age. These temples represent one of the earliest moments in human history when a community decided to build something permanent for reasons that went beyond simple survival. Malta was a small island with limited resources. Building the Gantija required generations of sustained effort and belief. The temples were designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 1980. Exactly how the builders of a small island society organized such an effort, fed their workers, and sustained construction over centuries is still only partially understood. Number 2. Pumapunku. At an altitude of 3,800 meters in the Bolivian Andes, within the ancient city of Tiwanaku, there is a section called Pumapunku. It does not look like much from a distance. The stones are scattered and broken, victims of centuries of looting and earthquakes. But when you look closely at the individual blocks, the mystery becomes clear. These blocks, some weighing up to 131 tons, were cut with flat surfaces, perfectly straight edges, and interlocking geometric shapes that fit together like machine-made parts. There are H-shaped blocks, blocks with interior channels, and stones with beveled grooves that lock into each other across large distances. The nearest quarry for the red sandstone used here was 10 kilometers away. The hardest stones, made of andesite, came from a quarry 90 kilometers across a lake. The builders had no iron tools. No wheels have been found in the archaeological record of Tiwanaku, and yet the precision of these cuts has stumped modern stonemasons. The best explanation researchers have developed is that the builders of Tiwanaku used a combination of abrasion, repeated chipping with stone tools, and precise geometric templates passed between generations of craftsmen. The labor force was likely organized through the same communal tax system used across Andean civilizations. Moving the heaviest stones across the lake may have been done using reed boats and organized rafting. What makes Pumapunku stand apart is that its precision does not look like something achieved through brute force and rough technique. It looks like mastery. A mastery developed over generations by a civilization that collapsed before writing down its methods. The full construction techniques of Pumapunku have never been fully replicated. Number 1. The Coral Castle. In Homestead, Florida, there is a structure built entirely by one man. Edward Leedskalnin was a Latvian immigrant who arrived in the United States in the early 1900s. He was small, standing just 1.5 meters tall and weighing around 50 kilograms. Starting in 1923 and working entirely alone, he spent 28 years carving and moving over 1,100 tons of coral rock, shaping it into walls, towers, a rocking chair, a telescope, a bathtub, and a massive 9-ton gate that could be opened with a single finger. His neighbors almost never saw him work. He worked at night. He refused to let anyone watch him move the stones. When people asked how he did it, he said only that he understood the secrets of the ancient Egyptians. He spoke of magnetic forces and the nature of weight. He left no blueprints, no written method, no demonstration. Then something became clear after his death in 1951. Archaeologists and engineers examined the site and found evidence of simple but brilliant mechanical systems. Leeds-Kalman had likely used repurposed tools from old car parts, hand-cranked block and tackle systems, and a deep understanding of leverage and balance. The 9-ton gate rotated on a single steel shaft resting in a truck bearing, so perfectly centered that its own weight kept it in balance. The gate worked smoothly for decades before the bearing finally wore out in 1986. What makes this case the most remarkable on this list is not the engineering, it is the singularity. One man, no help, no modern equipment, no institutional support, just knowledge, time, and patience. Engineers who have studied the site say his methods were achievable but required extraordinary skill and precision to execute alone. To this day, no one has successfully replicated everything he built using only the tools available to him. The full method of his most massive lifts remains open to debate,